Good evening and salutations, my Days of Our Lives fans. So, let's talk about Gabby for a minute. So, Kate comes in, Kate comes in Gabby's office because Gabby was like, hey, I need to talk to you. So she comes in there like, hey, listen, I have a lot of time. I'm about to sit there and go to a meeting. Gabby's pretty much like, well, you don't have to worry about that meeting because you're fired. At first, Kate's like, you're fine. You're joking. You can't do that. And Gabby's like, no, I don't trust you, and I don't really want you here. So Kay's like, listen, here's the thing. I mean, she looks at it like this. She's like, who else are you gonna sit there and trust? I mean, you pretty much kind of kick, Jake to the curb. You really can't trust anyone here, and it's not like you can really sit there and trust Johnny. I mean, Johnny has practically backstabbed damn near everyone just to get to this position. But you think you're gonna sit there and be able to trust him? And at first, I was like, listen, it's better to sit there and have an ally, like your friends closer, your enemies closer. So I thought she was gonna be like, all right, you know what, listen, you're right. But no, she she still let her go. She still pretty much fired Katie. Um, and she was sitting there talking to Johnny like, well, Kate brought up a really good point. Could I trust you? Now my whole thing is like, do you really expect Johnny? I mean, I'm calling him Johnny Diablo and Johnny at the same time, but do you really sit there and think that you can trust him because he said that you could? Like, seriously. Um, and that's literally what Johnny Diablo does. He's like, well, you can trust me because of this, that, and the third. And, I want to be with you. So at this point, he makes a play for her. And he pretty much kind of gets what he wants. He starts making out with her while Jake is sent there calling. Now, Jake went to talk to Ben and Sierra and was like, listen, Johnny did this, Johnny did that. And Ben and Sierra was like, no, it was Bella. She was behind this whole thing, and they pretty much tell all the steps and everything. They tell him all the steps and everything. But Jake is not convinced. Jake saw the way that pretty much his life was going downhill and looked at it as in Johnny was pretty much kind of profiting. He was pretty much kind of benefiting all the, off of all the stuff that happened. So he's like, it gotta be Johnny. So he goes to talk to Bella, and Johnny Diablo pretty much just did a damn good job as far as framing her. Um, was the one that opened up the envelope when Sean went to take a look at it. Also, hacked inside her computer and made it look like because Bella, says that she keeps a copy of legal documents and stuff like that. So it, we'll probably have one drawn up as far as the one that Gabby looked at. So it's like, hey, listen, if I did it, it will be in here, and it was there. So in some ways, that actually works out for Jake because Jake could be like, hey, listen, I'm not the one that was going to sit there and oust you. That signature wasn't mine. And that's when he's about to sit there and call Gabby, but Gabby's too busy being busy with Johnny Diablo. So now the thing is, I'm gonna find this very interesting, very funny, but very interesting when this whole devil thing comes to an end. Because Gabby is gonna feel like crap. Chanel is gonna feel like crap, and yeah. Oh my goodness. Now, my question for the day is because Johnny ran, he talked to Chad. He was like, "Hey, listen, it was really Bella morphed into EJ that kissed, that kissed your wife, that came onto your wife. It wasn't really EJ. I just thought I should let you know." My whole thing is, and I've been pondering that question since, well, the devil pretty much kind of exposed Bella. I was like, why would you sit there and do that? Like, why would you sit there and tell everyone that it was Bella that really morphed into EJ? And that forced itself on your wife, or that forced itself on Bella. I'm just wondering. I mean, does it like cement his case more? Because I feel like, by telling Chad that, Chad would have a crisis of conscience and would want to sit there and do what he can to get EJ out. Now, if he gets EJ out, that does kind of mess up his plan a little bit, right? I mean, EJ will come back, somehow kick out Gabby. It'll be a power struggle, whatever. Unless that's what he wants. I don't really understand the benefit of actually, like, I didn't understand the benefit of actually telling everyone, oh, it wasn't really EJ, it was the devil that morphed in, it was Bella that morphed into EJ. Like, it was the devil that did it. Like, I don't really understand what was the point of that. I'm still pondering that. Now Chad was sitting there talking to Kay, and he was like, listen, I feel really guilty. Um, I want to sit there and get back at him when I thought, he forced himself on my wife, but knowing that it wasn't him, what am I going to do? And he's like, I'm going to sit there and throw myself under the bus. I'm going to sit there and confess. I'm going to sit there and say it was me. Because he's not going to sit there and say it was Lucas. So the only thing he can really do is sit there and say it's him. Kay's like, that's a bad idea. Because you're going to sit there and regret that. How about we have another option? He's like, let's blame the devil. So I'm like, all right. So you're going to sit there and blame it on Bella. But then Bella is not going to really sit there and get charged because she had a psychotic breakdown. Like, I don't really understand that. I mean, here's the thing. If this whole thing works, then EJ would get out of jail. Bella really wouldn't go to jail because, she was insane or possessed or whatever the courts is going to sit there and find her in. And Lucas doesn't have to go to jail for being the one that actually framed him. So it's a win-win for everyone if it works. And that's something that Susan was saying to EJ. It was like, hey, listen, you can call a mistrial. You could sit there and reappeal. Like you could sit there and get another trial and basically sit there and say that Bella was incompetent. Now EJ, he has some reservations about that because he's like, I mean, I'm pretty sure he doesn't want to sit there and be like, hey, listen, it was hurtful. She was a bad lawyer, this, that, and the third. Um, he does sit there and take responsibility as far as like, listen, she did a great job. This was on me. Like, I screwed up all the stuff that she was trying to do as far as the strategy. Um, so it's like, I'm not gonna sit there and do it. I'm not gonna sit there and pin it on her. I'm not gonna lie. I feel so naive now. I've been watching the channel for a while. I was sitting there talking about Susan Banks. And I was like, it's Susan Banks, like, I don't understand how Susan and Kristen look alike. I just don't get it. And I remember somebody pointing out, yo, the person that plays Kristen also plays Susan. She does double work. And then when I looked at it, I was like, oh, wow, I can see it now. And thinking about it now, I was like, wow, I feel really dumb. I feel really dumb. So after Susan, saw EJ, was like, oh, you gotta sit there and stay away from Clyde. He's a bad person. This, that, and third. She goes to talk to Ben and Sierra. Now, there's one point where she's about to sit there and blurt out the baby's sex, but they stop her really quick, and like, hey, we don't want to sit there and know this, that, and the third. Now they're pondering, looking at the envelope. This is after Sean came by and was like, hey, just let you know, the devil, he knows the sex of your baby. I mean, he's gone, allegedly, but he knows the sex of your baby. So he brung the envelope over there. Now they're sitting there looking at it. And after Susan leaves, um, I think they said they come up with some sort of clever way to sit there and find out what the baby is. I'm just like, what are y'all doing? Listen, I understand why they don't want to know the sex of the baby. You know, and Sean was talking about the room and the color, for the boy or girl, and they were like, hey, listen, it's the baby, it's gonna be gender neutral, it's gonna be whatever the baby feels comfortable. Like they're not gonna sit there and put labels as far as blue and pink and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, you know what, that's cool, that's very forward thinking. I'm with it. Um, so I'm just like, I don't know. I find it a little kind of silly. Like they're just like looking at the envelope, like, oh, it's here. We don't want to know. We do want to know. It's like just grow up and put it away somewhere. Like this is kind of dumb now. Now Clyde does sit there and talk to EJ, and Clyde's like, listen, I'm going to be getting out soon, and I'm going to be on the outside world. EJ remembers that Clyde is responsible for his death. Like, he may not have pulled the trigger, but he was with some men that did the work for him. And he does call him out. He's like, hey, I remember. Because, Clyde's like, oh, what are you looking at? What's going on with you? He's like, I remember. And I'm like, okay, you remember. And now what are you going to do? Like, let's sit there and think about this. You needed Clyde to sit there and watch your back, right? While you were in jail. You needed Clyde to sit there and watch your back. What good is it going to be if you tip your hand and you're like, all right, I know it was you. Okay, cool. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to try to stop him from parole? Like, I feel like EJ is not in exactly the best position to really sit there and be making threats. Like, on the outside, okay, maybe sure. You got power, you got money, or stuff like that. And here, in jail, it's a lot different. He has the power, he has the numbers, and he was probably the one that's there keeping the sharks off the back. So, you make a play against him, you're going to be screwed. And I feel like it's one of those things where it's like EJ could be a very smart person when the story allows him to, but he can be very rash, very temperamental, and he is one of those type of people that will act before he thinks. I feel like that's going to cost him in the long run, so that should be interesting. Oh, and also Bella had Maggie's phone, which Jake did go to the house to talk to her, but of course she wasn't there, so I guess he just, he left a note, and that was pretty much about it, more or less. And then of course he tried to call Gabby because like, hey, listen, I got good news. I got proof that I didn't do those things, but I guess it's too late now because you're with Johnny, and yeah. Oh yeah, and Bella feels hella guilty. You know, even though Sean's like, listen, it wasn't you, it was the devil. He was doing all this stuff. You can't sit there and really put all this on yourself. She feels bad. She feels bad about the whole stuff with Sierra and Ben and Jake, and hell, she might even feel bad about EJ and the way that she handled the court stuff because while she could sit there and say that she was in control, I mean, was she really in control? I mean, obviously we know it wasn't her, but she doesn't know that. So yeah, she's gonna be feeling really crappy for a while. On top of that giant headache that she got after Johnny, clocked her upside the head. So yeah, fun stuff. I think that's about it for the most part. I don't think I missed too many details. But before I go, I want to give a very, very, very special shout out to my friend Jeannie. She is an amazing person, an amazing model, and an amazing friend. I've been working with her for years, and she is slowly coming back to doing her modeling. And I just want to sit there and say that, you always have my support, my friendship, and pretty much anything else that you need. So yeah, she's a really cool person, really down to earth, and I'm very lucky to have her in my life. So, with that being said, I'm gonna go. I want to thank you for watching. Be safe. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next video.